Hey, this is Todrick Johnson. I want to welcome you to another episode of Ambitious, where we speak to people who are succeeding against the odds. Today we're here in Dallas, Texas at the Texas Capital Bank building, and we're here to speak with Miss Effie Dennison. You guys come on and join us. Well, Miss Effie, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, hanging out with me today.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm honored to do it.
Yes. So before I get started, I have a question that I want to ask you, and I want to get your meaning from it. The question is, what does ambitious mean to you?
Ambitious?
Yes.
Ambitious means to me probably when you set a goal that you have in mind that you want to achieve, personal goal, professional goal, whatever that goal is. And when you order your steps and start doing things going in the right direction to move you toward achieving that goal. That's what ambition means to me.
Okay. You know, a lot of times people will see someone in a position, and for some reason they think they just snapped their finger and got to that position. But they don't understand that people went through a whole lot to get where they at, and they had to be ambitious to get there. So what I want to ask you is, who is Effie Dennison?
My story is very simple. I am a daughter of a Baptist preacher that came up in a modest household. My mother was an educator. My daddy, that's when they had poor Baptist preachers. They don't have those anymore. But, you know, I was surrounded by a family of love. My dad and my mom both instilled in us a ethic, a work ethic. And the one thing they used to always say to us was, you are a Bergs. That's my maiden name, and that's meant something to us. So having that name and that good name meant something. So whenever we would come to any adversity, at school, with a friend, you are a Bergs. So just having that affirmation meant something, and knew that I needed to be something more than just not. So having that and growing up in that home shaped to form who I am today. So any and everything that I've achieved, didn't achieve, had my ups and downs, or whatever that is, I attribute why I sit in this chair with you today to that foundation that was generational. It came from their parents to him to me, and now I've got grandbabies, and I'm affirming, you know, my daughter's kids, so they're not a Bergs, but I have to affirm for them to know who they are, and more importantly, whose they are. Because there are going to be things along that ambitious trail that's going to derail you, try to set you back. But if you are grounded and have a good foundation, you can change the world.
So where you at in life today? Did you have a vision for that at an early age?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I just knew that stopping after graduating from high school was not an option. And I knew that there was always a desire to do something more with my life. I'm very entrepreneurial, so I've had businesses as well as I've been in the corporate sector. So having both of those, you're able to understand it from a different lens, especially in the financial services arena. But my path did not start out, where I grew up. I used to envy kids, especially in high school, that already knew the trajectory of their lives. They knew they were going to be a doctor or this, and it was ingrained in them, and everything that they did throughout their junior high and senior high led them to that. I didn't have that. I didn't know what it was, where I would land, what I would end up doing. I knew I had a passion for people. I knew I loved transactional things. I knew I was a visionary, and I could see things that weren't there that should be there, that could be good business opportunities. But how do you make a job out of that? Is there such a career of doing that? And no, I had no clue. It's just how God, as I look back over my life, every job I had, from the first one to washing dishes at Rogerio's Pizza to sitting here today as an executive here at this bank, but for God, I have no idea how all those things now, I've used everything I've learned in every prior job to have me prepared for this moment and this time.
Okay. So you mentioned that you was an entrepreneur at one time.
Yeah.
Can you briefly tell us about some of the things that you did as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so where do we start? My first job, a business that I started was a full-service car wash in Texaco Express Lubes.
You?
Yes, that's what shocked everybody.
That's all right.
But this business went on from an idea to, and I'm not talking about converted, this were $1 million to $2 million, $3 million facilities that we ended up building and starting that. Didn't know anything about the car wash, just was in my neighborhood, in my car lot, was working with Wells Fargo Bank at the time, and went to this car wash. It used to be really nice, and you pull up and they greet you, and their nice uniform attendant was there. And then everything had just gone down, and I'm thinking, how hard can this be? You put the car, you get out, you go in, you do this. I can do this. So I got in my car, drove up the street, and there was this little land that was there where we used to play putt-putt, goonie golf. Remember that, little putt-putt? And I'm thinking, it looks long enough. I've always done real estate since when I first got out of school. I loved real estate. I loved transactional things. I tied up the land, and I figured out I'll figure out the rest. And fast forward, I started that business, built it, went on to become Black Enterprise Business of the Year award, recognition for that. Gone to conferences, became Texaco brand ambassador because we were Texaco branded. Built another car wash and sold those, and had over 100 employees at one time. So, while working full time. And you say when you wear these kind of uniforms, I remember when we decided to do mobile and take it off site. It was a Good Friday weekend. I was supposed to be at work. I'm in my little pastel yellow pearls, and went to go check on that location. The employee was there, and to be honest with you, we were slammed. I just took those pearls, swung them behind my neck, grabbed that high-speed buff, and away. It made the news because they were like, man, y'all got to come see this woman out here with this high-speed buffing the heck out this car. Very hands-on, but I certainly think by being, having that and having the highs and lows of a seasonal business where you've got people relying on you for their livelihood, 100 of them, and you need a Good Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday to make payroll. There were days, especially in Houston with the weather being what it was, that I had to go in my own personal pocket and make sure no one was going to ever say that I missed a payroll, whatever it took to do that. But it was a good experience. It was a hard experience, but I kept them for 12 years, and then I sold when I moved here to Dallas. I kept them for 3 years, and then I sold them both to the same guy.
You mentioned about your parents earlier, and I know you have a close relationship with your mother, right? Mm-hmm. So what did she give you that's irreplaceable?
Oh, gosh. Okay, first of all, I have a close relationship with both of my parents.
Okay.
My dad, I was a daddy's girl. I don't know if you can tell that, but I'm pretty much, I live and breathe, and I act a lot like him, and I lost him about 7 years ago now. With my mother, certainly, she is probably one of the just kindest, sweetest people I don't know anybody who's ever met her that didn't just love her. But her sense for compassion and passion for other people, and wanting to always be that voice to lift up and give hope. If I don't have anything else, I pray that I got that quality from her, so that when people leave you, they feel better from having that encounter. Yes. I hope I have that, because she definitely is that.
Is there something someone specifically told you at a young age to get you where you at right now, today?
Well, yeah. Being in financial services and being a woman of color, you are really anybody of color is very much underrepresented in all aspects of financial services. So I'm hoping to change that trajectory. I'll have to tell you about something that we're working on. I remember vividly one of the managers that I worked for, and at that time it was all white male in every office. There weren't even women in financial services in key roles of any institution I've ever been in. And he said to me, you got 3 strikes against you. And I couldn't remember, by that time he got to the second one, I was just like blank. He says, you are a woman, yes. You are Black, and and the way he said the word Black was just like black. Like,
he said that.
He said it.
Wow.
And I can't, the third one, and I'm trying to remember, what did he say? Those 2 things to me, and I'm thinking, no, those are the things that are in my favor. Yes. And that's why I can show you better than I can tell you. But recognizing that that's how he saw me, that's probably how others in this space see you. I'm not saying they don't see it today.
Yes.
Even in this boardroom as we sit here at this bank. It's not been my experience, but I'm just saying that could be in the back thought of people's mind when you come to the table. So you're always having to prove or show what you know before people begin to give you that validity in this space. So yeah, those were game-changing words. I thank him. I don't know where he is to this day, but I thank him for it.
Yeah. So how did you get into the banking business?
My career, and I'm glad you started out by saying people don't really understand other people's story.
Yes.
And you see someone sitting in this office at this level and you think they just went to school, got a degree, worked their way up, and that wasn't my journey at all. I met my husband, my first husband. I got married early, started my family early, went to school, didn't finish, and then had to go back to school as a mom, trying to do principles of accounting, nursing a baby. I was like, okay, I know I don't like this. I don't want to stay in this area. But being able to move to Dallas was kind of a change for me. So I went into the administrative secretarial area and started out in that, worked my way up. Regardless of what I did, whatever job I had, it was around bringing your best to the table every day. And that's what I did. And even as administrative, I kept moving up and moving up. And then when I moved here to Dallas, my husband then was going to seminary school at SMU. Okay. And we were making a transition of the whole family to come up. I sent my resume to a big commercial syndication real estate development company and to be the secretary for the CEO. And they accepted me, they interviewed me over the phone. I show up for work that Monday, and they see that I am a woman of color in this firm. I'll never forget it. And they set me in that office for about an hour to try to figure out what do we do now, because they were not going to have me go in and be his secretary. So they decided to find another position for me, because that one they didn't realize it was a mix-up. They found another position for me in the real estate, taxation, legal department as a paralegal. Game changer. What they meant to hurt me was why I'm sitting here today. The gentleman that was a lawyer that was over that was teaching classes at SMU. You got to get involved. I learned everything about structured transactions, syndications, things that are terminology that a little girl, Baptist preacher girl, shouldn't know. I learned how to do savvy deals. I know the legal and the tax implications of that. And that was what changed my whole life at that very moment, to move into that, to move into real estate, to watch real estate go down, to go work for the FDIC, to liquidate real estate transactions, to go from FDIC to banking.
Wow. So if you would have became a secretary, you probably would.
I probably would still be in an administrative role.
Wow.
So that's when you say, when God orders your stuff, some of this time you just got to have a good foundation and be prepared when an opportunity comes. Mm-hmm. But if I didn't have that same tenacity, work ethic, ability to grasp and to learn, be coachable, be a sponge. I'm a sponge at this age where I'm in my career right now. I still love hearing about people's story, because everybody got one. And those can be inspiring for you. I don't know what's next. I don't worry about next. Right now, today, I love what I'm doing. And I thank every naysayer, every employer, manager, journey I've had to be here today, because it has shaped me to who I am. And now from these lessons that I've learned, I can impart that on someone else.
Wow. Well, so let me ask you, how important is community relations in the corporate world?
Very. It used to be a good thing to do. You know, we're going to volunteer. But now this is impacting Wall Street. People do business with people that they know, that they like, and that they see are doing other things in community. So when you go back and you look at our investor packages from Wall Street investors, One of those questions that they ask is around our corporate governance. It's around what are we doing in community? How are we doing it in community? So that's very much a part of what drives now business. I can sit here and tell you story after story around where we've seen just our presence, engagement, impact in community, where those organizations are now bringing their business. Just because it's nonprofit don't mean they don't have any profit. They are these are some very large nonprofits with some very strong balance sheets that are now saying, why are we banking here when this is the organization that's out in the community, that's doing great things in community, that's supported. We don't just write checks, we're there. Makes a big difference. So it used to be a good thing, but now there's a compelling reason for businesses to be more engaged.
Very important. How would you define strength of a woman in the corporate world?
You know, I think women have to come into their own in terms of what they understand strength to be. We tend to deal with a lot of labels. You know, men don't have to deal with no labels in the corporate environment. We get them. If you're too strong, you're this, the B word. If you're too aggressive, you're this. If you're too, we have to, women just shed all those labels and just be who you are. Strength to me is when you can know who you are, know your work, the work value that you bring, prove that work value every day, and go home and affirm. If you got a family, go home and affirm your family. If you're single, go home and affirm your singleness. It's really not about flexing muscle, and I got to show you, men, when I come in this room, I'm going to be intimidated, so I got to show you I'm as tough as you are. No, women bring a whole new dynamic to the engagement in a business situation. When you have a diverse board and you've got men and women, you've got different viewpoints that are there, and women can bring in a whole different level into that discussion that maybe it could be two men trying to jockey and the woman speaks and it just changes the whole, dynamic of that engagement. So I think your strength is really in being a woman and recognizing the value that you bring to that organization and to your role in that organization.
So you let your work speak for itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it.
Where are we with African American women in the corporate world right now?
Not where we need to be.
Okay.
Not even close. When we say about corporate world, I mean that's a it's expansion from here to here. So we all have jobs, I'm assuming, but in terms of C-suite, in terms of senior roles, executive roles, key critical roles, we are still very much underrepresented. Now, there are some companies that are getting it. We've made some progress, but not nearly, just with women in general, but women of color in particular, very underrepresented. So there's a lot of work to do. And
How do you think we can get there?
First of all, if nothing else, start your own companies. Create your own and be able to hire your own and help them to do that. Certainly there are different organizations that are supposed to be preparing you for leadership, development. Being in an organization that embraces that, I would not be a part of an organization that did not embrace diversity. Not just embrace it, but practice it. That actually see and have already in their mind, if someone walks in the door, I can tell you pretty much in a few months of your being there at that company, people earmark or say, that's someone that is a high potential. You get a brand as a high potential or just a good employee or a non-performer. Those high potentials, they're going to watch. You're going to find someone that's going to take you under their wing, and if they don't do that, you got to go and be proactive.
Yes.
Find you someone. The gentleman I told you about, had I just came in there and was happy being a paralegal, I would probably still be a paralegal. But I saw in him, he was he took me under his wing, he would explain things to me, and the more I asked, the more I was inquiring, the more he said, well, come to this class. I'm like, I don't want to take my whole weekend. Come to this class. And I went and I came back and I said, that was a game changer for me. And then the more I saw that with him and the more he saw that with me, the more he poured into me. You know, ambition is contagious. If you really, really want it and you want to make it and be an inspiration for other people, which I hope that's what these talks do, is to inspire other people to get excited about it, about their life, about their career, about what they want to do next in life. Don't just let something just come by and you just, okay, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm good where I'm at. If that's what you want to be, to each his own. But if you're aspiring to do something, get you some other people around you that are going to encourage you, that's going to pick you up, that's going to help to push you. Because there are going to be moments where you get low, and start second guessing your own self and what value you can bring.
When you talked about the young man that helped you at an early age, you know, that was my next question to you. What did you think about mentorship? Because that's very important.
Look, I'm the age I am. I've got friends. I was mentoring someone last night. I mean, it doesn't stop. I don't think that, you know, and I love talking to, you know, even women my senior, because I can learn from them. They don't have to even be my senior. You can learn from someone younger than you. Yes. But I think mentorship is critical pretty much in anything that you do. Even if you start in your own business and somebody else has done it before, go out and learn from those. When I started those car washes, I told you, I didn't know anything about it. You know what I did? I went and found the best car wash operator in Houston, which is where I was at. And he took me under his wing. I wasn't a threat to him. He had like 5 locations and doing a bang-up business. So I'm like, let me come over and, you know, work on the weekend. So he allowed me to come in, put my hand in a ponytail and get out there and learn this business. As mine was being built, I was working at a car wash with him, learning. He mentored me when that first couple of months, and it was just like, oh God, it seemed like it rained every day. We were struggling. I still had payroll. I called him. I'll never forget. I called him and had him meet me in front of the car wash. And we just sat out there. He pulled up. I got out, came outside, and sat in the car and just looked at the operation. And I was trying to make a deal, sell it to him right away. He said, you don't want to do that. You don't want. I was just like, I just want to get out of this. Just take it. You do it. And he ended up, before I sold the last one that was in Pearland, a big one there. And he hunted me down and was like, okay, you ready to sell? I'm like, no, not right now. I'm not going to sell it to you right now. But yeah, having a mentor is critical in I don't care what it is, if it's in a corporate environment, if it's in that company, if it's external, if it's in a business. Find someone who's the best at what they do or that you admire things about them. Sometimes just because they're the best, I mean they're the best mentor. Because character is critical for me. It's not just what you do, it's everything about you that I'm going to look at and want you to mentor me, because I just can't sit under anybody as a mentor and not agree with them in spirit. I have several.
You have several?
For different things.
Okay, that's good.
For different things.
And you know, people often tell people when you start a business, you should always read about what you're getting into, do some research, go online, do research, different things like that. And what you think about that? That helps you out a whole lot, right?
I mean, you wouldn't do anything else without knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of lessons that I learned the hard way. Actually, you know, learning how to fly the plane and drive everything at the same time. Passengers on board, we got to go.
Yes.
Good thing is it had to accelerate my learning curve because I was in real time with doing that. But I don't know anything you should do without preparing yourself for it, knowing what you don't know. I had to trust a lot of people because they were the experts in it, and you start hiring different people. And that was probably a big mistake too, because then they walk out that door, there's your intellectual capital going out the door that you got to now go figure out, okay, I don't know how to do this. Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people, work in it. Make sure you really like it. Maybe it's do something that you already know that you do very well and you're passionate about, that you can take and grow from there. If you ain't passionate about it, don't know it, why do it?
So if you wouldn't do it for free.
Right.
Okay.
That's probably a good way to put it.
I'm passionate about it and love to do.
Because if you're an entrepreneur, there may be times you're gonna have to do it for free
Right.
to get that business off the ground, and you still need to feel good about that.
That's right. And you have to always know that it is a process to get where you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
It don't just happen overnight.
Not at all.
Well, let me ask you this. This is the last question I have for you. How do you balance your life being a wife, a mother, and an executive?
Keeping things in order. You know, going back to the foundation that I have, and you know, my order starts with my relationship with the Father,
Yes.
and then that keeps me to where I can order things around me in my home, in my career, to where it's not I have to be 3 different people or 4 different people. I'm that same Effie that wakes up every morning, that affirms my husband before he walks out that door. He affirms me, and having a godly man for me made a difference. I couldn't be with someone that's a non-believer because that's so much a part of my foundation. So by him being in order, me being in order, then I can prioritize this, my work. I do what I do here. I bring it and I give what I give here. But anyone will tell you, when I leave from this office, you know that I think you've tried to find, when I turn it off, it's off. I've given everything I'm gonna give you between this window of time, but when I hit 1303, that is my family, that is my daughter, that is my grandbabies, that is my life. And I don't ever want them to feel that I had to. There have been times you had to make decisions because of conflicts, but in terms of just the core to where I would sacrifice everything for the sake of a career and money. I'll give you an example. You know, when being in banking, and we've gone through, I've been in it for so long that they used to have a lot of mergers. And there was a huge merger between our bank and another bank in another state. And my daughter at that time was in the 2nd grade. And I could tell when they came in to take over, they saw me as a high performer. As a high performer, that means, okay, we need you to either move here, uproot your family, or you got to commute back and forth. And I could tell that the ideal would be for you to move here, uproot your family, or do this commute thing. And it got to the point to where my daughter was speaking in a little play. She thinks she had a little line. And I was like, I tell you what, I'll come for this meeting, but I'm going to leave early because I'm going to be there when she says that little line that she'd been practicing for 2 weeks. That could have been a career decision, and it may have been, because at that very moment, and I don't train, you know, she is in her 30s now, and she remembers me sitting in that audience to be there. So that may have been a career decision for me. It didn't hurt me because I'm where God wants me to be anyway, when he wanted me to be here. But that decision to me was more important, to be there for her, to hear that. So when you balance, the balance doesn't mean I got to make this. I'm not trying to be a superwoman, because outside of that, I have a lot of organizations that I support. I volunteer. I do these things. But it has to all be in order, to where nothing is just so completely out of sync to where your family gets the brunt of your leftovers. They deserve more than that.
Yes. Wow. Well, Ms. Effie Dennison, I want to thank you for your ambitious moment. Appreciate your time again.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.